Dr. Lauren Hale leaned against the cool tile wall and took a moment to regroup. She closed her eyes and rubbed her face, taking several deep breaths. Just the thought of walking back through the emergency room doors made her nauseous. At this point, she'd been on her feet for close to 15 hours, 7 hours longer than her scheduled shift. Staying a few hours past the end of a residency shift wasn't unusual, especially a day shift, when she could rely on a full night of sleep to recuperate. But this was something entirely different. The emergency room had been slammed with a steady flow of patients all day, the number of check-ins increasing hourly. So far, none of the attending physicians had hinted at releasing her from the ER. The arrival of the second shift in the late afternoon had barely made a dent in the overcrowded waiting room, which left her less than optimistic about her chances of leaving when the overnight shift arrived. They were slammed. The line to check into the ER now snaked as far as she could see along the sidewalk leading to the parking lot. She slowly exhaled through her mouth and opened her eyes. Back to work. Before she pushed herself off the wall, the doors swung inward, revealing Dr. Larry Cabrera, her supervising physician. He stepped inside the small hallway and removed his blue face mask. Lauren straightened, momentarily blanking on where she should go next. "I'm heading back in, Dr. Cabrera. Just needed a few seconds," she said. "That's fine, Dr. Hale," he said. "We could all use a few. I'm hoping to get you out of here for a few hours when the third shift arrives. I'll start rotating people out a little at a time once I get a handle on who actually shows up." "Is the third shift light?" "A little. Same crap that's apparently making its way around the city." "Any idea what we're dealing with?" she said. "At first I thought it might be a late-season flu wave. Fever, headaches, drowsiness, fatigue. Now, I'm not so sure. The headaches seem too severe, migraine level, and I haven't seen a single patient with a cough or runny nose." "The volume of patients arriving within such a compact period of time strikes me as odd. Have you ever seen this with the seasonal flu?" she said. "We occasionally get swamped with flu cases during the fall and winter months. But when I say swamped, I mean a full waiting area that we clear over the course of the day, not a growing mob outside the entrance." "At what point do we shut down the ER?" she said. Dr. Cabrera gave her a quizzical look. "Shut down?" "I mean, stop accepting patients," she clarified. "Shut the doors, at least temporarily." "I hadn't given that any thought. Nothing like this has happened before," said Dr. Cabrera, his voice trailing off. "I better get moving," she said. "I need to work my way through the general examination unit." "How long has it been since a patient has moved out of there?" said Dr. Cabrera. "At least 3 hours," she said. At the start of her shift, the general examination area still served its original purpose. Patients were escorted from the waiting room, thoroughly assessed, and often subjected to a battery of tests intended to determine the underlying cause of their symptoms. By mid-morning, they had filled most of the emergency department's 115 beds, mostly with patients reporting similar symptoms. They'd reserved a few critical care beds, along with an intensive diagnostic and treatment unit bed for acute emergency cases like heart attacks and car injuries that could not be diverted to other hospitals. "We filled every bed in the hospital, and all of the area hospitals are reporting the same thing," he said. "I don't see this getting any better." Shouting erupted beyond the swinging doors from the waiting room. Moments later, a nurse dressed in dark blue scrubs burst into the hallway. "We have a problem," she yelled. "One of the patients is getting violent." "Shit," said Dr. Cabrera, already barreling past the nurse. "Where are the cops?" "There's another disturbance outside," said the nurse, following him. "They just left." Lauren took off with them, entering the ER waiting room in time to see a massive black man shove a young black woman into a group of patients scrambling to escape the mayhem. The woman stumbled backward, losing her balance and toppling a mother trying to get her toddler out of the way. The three of them hit the tile floor, the young woman landing on the kid, who let out a pitiful scream. A man dressed in a tracksuit yelled a few obscenities at the attacker after getting out of his seat to intervene. Before the Good Samaritan took more than 2 steps, a thick fist jackhammered his face, exploding his nose. The man dropped to his knees, blood covering his mouth and chin.